And we, oop, and my halo's on. And my camera's up too high. Hi. Hello. MJ, Bob, Ruya. MJ, congratulations. You're first. You made it. Ruya, congratulations. You're not first. You made it. Um, so today, what we've got is a little bit of using stuff up and a little bit of I found blackberries in the bargain bin. Um, so I'm going to smash those ideas together. Um, there it is. Grab my blackberries. 3 things of blackberries for $1. Don't know that we're going to use all 3 of them, but not second and not third. Anyone can take not first. There should be an unlimited number of those. So blackberries, I've got a lot of scallions, I've got a little bit of bok choy. I grabbed some tofu, but I think we're going to go with the shrimp. Because I had this shrimp in the bargain thing, and it's still good, but it's not going to be good much longer. So I think we're just going to use all of that. And while I was wandering around brainstorming what to do with blackberries and shrimp, you know, classic combo, blackberries and shrimp, my head finally went to mapo tofu, which we're not making today, but we're using the techniques of mapo tofu to make the thing that I think we're gonna make. So there is no recipe, and I called it Sichuan because I'm gonna use some Sichuan techniques. I don't think we're gonna stick very heavily to Sichuan flavors. I do intend to make it spicy, and also I do have Sichuan peppercorns, so we can also make it mouth tingly. We're getting low on those. We're getting low on those. But yeah, so that's the plan. We're gonna end up doing one of those things where I do a lot of prep, and then I jump over and do a lot of cooking, rather than the back and forth thing. Because I think this is one that I could mess up if I get distracted. With the berries, there's going to be an unusual amount of sugar in our mix, and that can burn real easy. So I think when we get to the cooking part, we're going to want to stay over there and cook until it's done, and not jump back over here to prep another ingredient. So that's going to be the plan. We're going to have a bunch of prep at the start. And first things first, we're going to do some rice. Let's get out the rice. The rice-a-majig. The rice-a-majig. Get you guys down here with me. If you've never used a rice-a-majig, they're great. Frankly, they should have called this. This is the Aroma Digital Rice Cooker. Because none of these companies have the guts to call their thing the rice-a-majig. You don't have to rinse your rice. But for something like this, you should. Because we want nice, loose grains of rice. And if you don't rinse your rice, that's what causes rice to stick together. So, just a cup of rice in the pot. I'll bring it back. Cup of rice in the pot, already formed bubbles. That's the starch from the rice forming bubbles. And we just stir it around. Doesn't really matter how much water you put in at this stage, just a lot. Way more than you think you need for cooking the rice. Because it is way more than you would need for cooking the rice, because we're just washing the rice. We're going to pour all this water off. So the water is very cloudy. That's what we're getting off. That's the rice starch. We just do this until we feel like it's not getting cloudier anymore. I did try once to see if I could just soak rice in hot water if it would cook, and it didn't do that. After 4 hours sitting in heated water, but not boiling water, in a sealed thermal container, the rice didn't cook. So you really do actually need to boil your rice. I don't think that's getting any cloudier, so I'm going to pour it off. The rice will sink, but it will also kind of try to fall out the container. So just go gentle and block it with your hand if it tries to slide out. And that's it. You can do it multiple times, but I usually just do it the one time. I just do it with a lot of water one time. And then rice can take up to double its volume in water. But the more water you put in, the mushier it'll get. And I usually prefer my rice to be at 1 to 1.5. As you can see, our water's not cloudy. You can see the rice is right in there. And that's the basics of washing rice. I think I've gone over that before. In fact, I'm certain I've gone over that before, but it's always worth revisiting things. I used to be way more education focused. These days I just ramble about nonsense and do things. Put my rice away. Put my rice tube away. The big tube of rice. Okay, part 2. I want to take the tails off these guys. These are already flavored with the thing just says garlic butter, but there's clearly black pepper on this. And the thing just says spices, which is not helpful. And also there's garlic in it, which is, oh, there's garlic right there. Okay, there's garlic in it. But the thing just says spices. Clearly there's something green and something black. So I'm guessing parsley and black pepper. I wish they weren't allowed to just say spices on the containers for these things. It is one of the it's one of the dumbest things. What if I was allergic to a common spice? I've never talked about this. You want to get the tail off a shrimp real easy. You pinch it right at the joint where the little fin bits hit the tail bit, and you kind of squeeze it. And pull the other side away, and that releases the tail. Pretty much foolproof. The only way it doesn't work is if the shrimp part was, like the meat part of the shrimp was already damaged, because then it might break. But So I don't know what this seasoning is, but it's probably not going to cause any trouble. So I'm going to just let it happen. And we're saving our shrimp tails because we freeze them until we have about a quart's worth, and then we make shrimp stock. So how's everyone today? Yes, spices as an ingredient. I actually asked. I went out of my way to ask at the meat counter, what are the spices? And they came over with a container that was the spice mix, and on the container it just says spices. They don't know what it is at the store because they get it sent to them already mixed into a spice blend. Just God. You know, it's some loophole so they can get away with something. Um, anyways, how is everyone? How are you all doing? How's your week been? Quite a few shrimps in that little container there. Quite a several of shrimps. Okay. Those just get set aside. We will use them. Actually, they're one of the last things I need, but we're getting them out of the way. Making dinner while watching. What's for dinner? As always, I wish to know. Darlene Yeo. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome in. How's it going? Glad to meet you. Here, one of the other things we're using up today is this kind of gnarly looking piece of ginger. We're going to use the whole thing because it's gnarly and I don't think it's going to last any longer. I need a board. Let's Bookworm's having sloppy joes. Darlene likes shrimp. That's good. We're having shrimp today. I probably don't need to peel this, but in fact, frequently I don't peel them at all. This time, because I'm using the whole thing and it's a little bit dried up, I'm not afraid about losing any. And also, I feel like there's going to be some gnarly bits that I just want to scrape off anyways, and it'll be easier to scrape the whole thing all at once. Yeah. I'm not doing a great job. Trying to be careful because this knife is very sharp, and I don't want to slip and hit my finger with it. So I am trying to be quite certain that the blade is always moving away from my hand. That is actually quite a large chunk of ginger. I might change what I said and only use that part of it and save the other bit. Um, as I've said before, you don't need to peel your ginger, especially if you're mincing it up into something. The ginger skins, they're a little bit fibrous. Big knife. Yes, you do have to bring the knife back towards your hand, but if you're holding the knife correctly, the blade will always be pointed away from your hand while you're doing that. Okay, that's actually quite a lot of ginger, so we don't need the other half of it. Okay, shrimp, rather rice, shrimp, ginger. Next, garlic. Yeah, we're going to use up everything salvageable from what's left in the little garlic house. We're going for some intense flavors today, so I'm not being shy with large quantities of our spices. And some of these garlics are a little on the old side, once again, so I'm not going to be shy about them because I want to use them up. And that one's trying to sprout on me, which is another reason to use it up. So, some slightly sad looking garlic, but quite a bit of it. It all peeled very easily. Old garlic tends to peel much easier than fresh garlic because the cloves have dried up and are pulling away from the papers on their own. But if they don't release, then you've got a real problem because the garlic is also less stiff. It's gone floppy, which makes it very difficult to peel stuck on papers away. All of these peeled nicely, but I've definitely had it go the other way. We're going to smash those a little bit. But then again, those are the softer ones. It's harder to smash old garlic as well because it is softer, which means you can't wake up the flavors as much. That's something I used to talk about every time I did garlic. Prep your garlic in advance, at least a minute before you add it to any heat. Because the enzymes and chemicals that form the rich, pungent, garlicky flavor are not heat stable. The product, that flavor compound that we all love from garlic, is heat stable. And they're released when you crush up garlic cells. So if you crush your garlic directly into heat, you're not giving it a chance for those flavors to develop before you start destroying those molecules. Using ginger or ginger and garlic paste. I've never used either of those items. I've frequently looked at ginger paste. I've used jarred ginger and I've used jarred garlic, and the garlic one I acknowledge and use it, but I also know that it is a different thing. Any pre-prepared garlic loses its pungency because that same chemical that I was talking about that gives you that fresh garlic pungency is not time stable. So any pre-prepared stuff does fade out. So you end up having to use way more. They have a different flavor profile. I have garlic, I have garlic powder. Those are both things I use. Do I have the jarred ginger? I had bought one at one point just to test it out. I don't know. I used it for a while. I think it might have spoiled before I got to all of it, which in my book is an indictment against it because it means I'm not using it enough to warrant buying it. I don't see it. I don't see it. So I think that's my verdict, is I don't use it enough to warrant buying it. It's spicy bean paste. And thus, it comes in a jar as a consistency of applesauce. Yes, I've used that version of ginger, only the ginger. I thought it was less flavorful. I think if I'm using pre-prepared, I would go for the powdered stuff before I'd go for that stuff, personally. Our garlic house is empty. But I do use this kind, the minced garlic in a jar. Again, it doesn't have that fiery punch, that forward garlicky flavor. I use it for something different. I think it's about that much. I don't know how much that is, but it's about that much. Probably a big teaspoon. A big teaspoon's worth. Again, I'm making a pretty large batch of this, I think. And thus, I'm being kind of generous with my spices. But also, in Sichuan cooking tradition, you use a lot of the spices. We're also not using, of course, the right kind of chilies here. We're using chili de árbol because that's what I've got the most abundance of. And I want about the same amount of that after it's minced up as I've got that. And I'm keeping the seeds this time because we want to infuse that fiery hit. Both of these go in right at the start to ensure that their flavors are infused in every aspect of what we are cooking. And 3 chili de árbol with the seeds is hot. Hot for sure. But that is kind of the point of the Sichuan pepper. The numbing effect lets you... Having made mapo tofu, I can tell you, in the mapo tofu, I made a mapo tofu. It called for 10 whole fresh chilies with the seeds and 2 dried ones. And it was hot, hot, hot. But the numbing effect of the Sichuan peppercorn absolutely worked to make you not blow your head off with it, despite how hot, hot, hot it was. So that's our crazy pepper. I'm trying to think what I want. I've got the ginger, the garlic, the pepper. We're going to be throwing in quite a lot of scallions. The blackberries are going to be sweet and acidic. The acidity is going to help balance out the fattiness of the pork. We don't have Ichiro55. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. How's it going? Good to meet you. Trying to think of what other spices I want to throw in this. I'm leaning towards some coriander and some black pepper, but not too much of either. I could go with bean paste. And really lean into the mapo tofu that is the inspiration for this. So I've got the mapo bean sauce. I've also got some hoisin, which could be added late just to balance things out a little bit if I think I need it. I'm also tempted to use gochujang because gochujang is delicious. It would kind of tear us away from Sichuan, but it's delicious. Actually, this stuff's probably the better choice. The just unspiced fermented bean paste. You're eating breakfast. What's for breakfast? I don't know why I said it like that. I'm going to pull up just the ideal mapo tofu. See what spices they're throwing in. A lot of garlic, a lot of ginger. Pork scallions, cornstarch tofu. These guys, they're using a way more Sichuan pepper than I am, but also way more regular pepper. Oh, and he's grinding. They're grinding their Sichuan pepper down to almost nothing. Yeah. Yeah, no, I've done this. Sesame oil. Don't think we're going to need the sugar. Spicy bean paste. This stuff is the other main ingredient. And some chicken broth. Fish and miso soup for breakfast. That sounds like an amazing breakfast. Oh man, I wish I could have breakfast like that. I had leftover pizza for breakfast today. No, we're gonna keep that guy out. That stuff is not as potent as I thought it was the first time. So I'm going to just take a couple of scoops of it. Remind myself what it tastes like. Spicy, nutty. It's got a distinct, like, nuttiness to it. I gotta use that more often. Dang, I forgot how good that stuff is. I forgot how tasty that stuff is. Oof. Oof, that's good. Now we're gonna do this part where I've got a lot of scallions. So this is two things of scallions. This is the tail end of this one, and I already trimmed off the dried up parts and the cleaned it up, except for the roots, which now I have done. But this is going to be my main onion component. And I think I want to throw them in at two different times. I want to throw some of them in early, and I want to throw some of them in right at the end, so that some of them can infuse their oniony flavor. And then there are some that are nice and green at the end still. Give us some freshness. You grow your veggies. I don't have the land to grow my own veggies, unfortunately. I grow mostly herbs because I have room for some boxes, but... And now it's winter, so I'm growing... Well, the sage is still hanging on, but everything else has kind of given up on me. Anyways, if you're actually from 22 acres, that's quite a bit. If you're actually from Sichuan, I apologize because I am definitely not making any real Szechuan dish here. I'm kind of making it up. There, lots of green onions, or scallions. Or bunching onions? I'm actually not sure which kind we have at this time of year, because they just label them green onions, but they're not spring onions, because it's not the season for spring onions. Labeling of the onions is much like labeling of canned fish. They get away with just kind of being close enough generalists. Liz and Getobino. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. How's it going? We're doing a lot of ingredient prep today because once I start cooking, I don't want to look away from the cooking too much. I'm a little leery of looking away from the cooking today. But hi, welcome, welcome. Clean that off just a little bit. Shrimp, garlic, ginger, hot pepper, Sichuan pepper, bean paste, scallion. You know, the flavored tuna cans I don't think I'm familiar with those. I have had some pre-flavored canned fish, canned tuna, and I generally wasn't a fan, so I kind of avoid them these days. Uh, and the inciting incident of this whole day. Um, discount Blackberries that are a little worse for wear. They're a little smushed. They're not moldy, they're just a little smushed. Which is good. I wanted to make sure that there was no furry ones mixed in with these guys. I think I'm going to do 2. There were 3 in this container. Oop, and one of them is furry. We'll do the furry one then. There is a little bit of a furry one in the middle there, so we're going to pick around that guy. He can go in our compost. If you're not into picking around slightly off fruits and vegetables, then I would avoid the bargain bin, because there's often some gnarly bits in there. But if you're okay with eating slightly next to some slightly off bits, it's an excellent way to save a few bucks. Blackberries should give us a very interesting color for our... Well, it should give us a very predictable color for our finished dish. Well, those are extremely ripe. Those are like soft ripe. We're gonna mash them with the masher. We're gonna let them be a little bit chunky. So when they go in, they're gonna get mashed with our masher. There's 3 minutes left on my rice. We've decided to skip the tofu and pork. Which is an excellent base for a lot of things. It's quite fatty, it's quite, ground pork, quite fatty, quite low flavor. Just gives us a sort of a nice richness without like the deep flavors of ground beef, so that other flavors can jump out more. And it's not where this dish starts, but is close to the beginning. I'm not going to take it out of there, but I wanted to get the plastic open. And that leaves us with one of these guys of blackberries still left for some other arts and crafts activities, whatever. I think that's all of our ingredients. The rest of this is all technique. Unless one of you sees a glaring oversight on my part. Now's your chance. M1197. I pronounce my name Jovial Jovian. You can call me Jovial. You can call me Jovian. Can I call you M1? Or would you prefer 197? Hello, hello. Welcome in. Glad to meet you. We're actually just close to starting the cooking. Let me get a pan out. Because of the sugar content, I am going to use one of our non-sticks today because I'm afraid of the sugar sticking. It still might stick. We have definitely had cases where sugar sticks even to a non-stick. You can call me JJ. It's not going to pop up as a highlight on mine. I haven't pre-programmed that one, but... so we're using the big white pan. Our rice is done. The big white pan, it's wide, it's non-stick. It'll let me push things away if I need to. And it's got a good curve on it, so I can do the toss as well. Downside being it's a little heavy. It's definitely heavier than an equivalently sized carbon steel. And we're going to start out with a high heat neutral oil. In this case, avocado, because it's what I was able to get on discount at some point. If you're new here, welcome. If you're new here, welcome. I cook mostly stuff that I find in the discount bins, and I decide what I'm going to cook based on what I find. Today, I was able to find blackberries in the discount thing, and also shrimp. So we're cooking something with blackberries and shrimp. And then I had to figure out what that meant. That's essentially how every day goes here, is what am I cooking and how? What nonsense am I making up and how? I'm going to let that oil heat up a little bit. These need to be crushed in our mortar and pestle. Oh, it's back here. These guys need to... Oop, I didn't clean you out. What is that? That's cumin. That's cumin. Let's dust out the thing a little bit. Turkey sandwich with huckleberry barbecue sauce. That sounds good. Sounds like something I'd eat. I'm going to give us a little pinch of salt right in our mortar as well. It will help create an abrasive for the grind here. Oh, that's spicy. Oh, the spicy dust is already spicy. Oh, this is gonna be a spicy one today. Yep. Wowee. Oofta. Oofta. Oh. Oh. Whew. Oh, I'm gonna sneeze real quick. Oh my god. Whew. Oof. Okay. Oh, sorry. Oh, that got me. That one got me. Okay, this stuff. This stuff goes in the oil at the beginning here, so it can infuse. Woo-wee. It was the dust coming up out of it that did it. Look at the red one. Because we're not even, because the oil's not even hot yet. We didn't sizzle. Whew. Yeah. I just ground up those things. Our hot peppers and our Sichuan pepper in the mortar with a little bit of salt, and enough dust rose up out of it while I was doing it to really get my nose. Hoo-wee. We can add sugar later if I think it needs to be sweet. I think there's going to be enough sugar in the blackberries. I'm trusting the blackberries for sugar and acidity to help balance us out. We can adjust at the end, or toward the end, if we need to. I've got rice wine vinegar, mirin. Oh, I've actually got black vinegar. We might throw in some black vinegar regardless, because that's a nice way to sort of pop a little bit of flavor with your acidity. Ooh. So this isn't a stir fry. Am I putting blackberries in the sauce? Yes. We're cooking the blackberries into the meat. You can also tell that my stove slopes just slightly that way because all the oil settled to the left, or to the away from you, but to my left. That'll correct a bit as more stuff goes in this pan. But we want to get to the point where the spices here sizzle. Then I will add other stuff. Yeah, I think the blackberries are going to give us enough sweetness. I'm more concerned about balancing the acidity. Because again, these are very ripe blackberries. I'm just a home cook, but I've been doing this here with you guys on the old Twitcheroo for... Are we 3 years or 4 years? I've lost track. Years. If we go back, some of my early experiments were definitely on the simpler side. I've learned a ton over time. I also grew up with two foodie parents who both good home cooks in their own right. Picked up a lot there, and I watch a lot of food. I watch a lot of food stuff on YouTube, actually, which are mostly home cooks. But I am happy to impart my knowledge. 3, because you just had your 3. Yeah, that's right. You guys did. You and Ryu just got your 30-something months. I'm happy to impart cooking knowledge, but I know a lot of you just show up to see the delicious things I make. If you can't tell, and I think you can, the oil, which started out at a sort of a golden color, has deepened into an orange as it's being infused with the spices from our spices. Red vinegar, I do not. The only vinegars I have on hand at the moment are black vinegar, rice vinegar, and cider vinegar. At one point I found myself having too many different kinds of vinegar, and I don't buy new ones unless I have a specific need. I've been running into that with a bunch of stuff where I've been running into that with a lot of things, actually, where I'm like, I shouldn't buy that, even though I don't have it and it's on sale, because I don't have a specific need for it, and it'll just kind of sit around. But I did have red wine vinegar and used it up. Right, I don't have any red wine vinegar. I did have red wine vinegar. I'm going to turn the heat up a little bit. We don't want this to scorch. It's not going to sizzle a ton because these were dry spices, so there's almost no water for them to sizzle with. They are getting to the point where they're starting to bubble. I'm going to take part of our green onions, throw those in now. They are kind of the same. Throwing some of the scallions in now gets that flavor infused. This is the thing. I did it absolutely right the very first time I made this, where you put in the oil, whole chilies, and some coarsely chopped scallions, and then you take them out. And instead of that, because I hate taking stuff out, I do it this way. We're going to throw the ginger in now as well. Ginger's pretty durable. It can handle getting pretty well toasted. Where am I from? I am from the great state of Wisconsin in the United States of America. The frozen north. Not super frozen these days. It actually was 60 degrees a couple days ago, which is super weird for November. What could be causing that? I guess we'll never know, but actually we'll super know all the time because it's really obvious. Hello, Wisconsin. No, I'm going to put the garlic in first. We're going to throw the garlic in when the garlic is fragrant. Then we're going to throw the pork in on top of it, and the thermal mass of the pork will stop all of this stuff from overcooking. Garlic has a tendency to burn because there's an awful lot of sugar in garlic that you don't notice, but it's super there. So once this smells, if I can smell through my drippy nose from gassing myself. And then I didn't want to add a ton of starting oil to this because we will get quite a bit of fat out of the pork as it renders down. Whew, it's hard to sniff because there's definitely a spicy overtone to it that kind of makes your nose jump. We don't make cheddar. I mean, we do, but not real cheddar. Real cheddar is from Cheddar, which is a place in England. Colby is from Wisconsin, though. I live just up the road from Colby. And we do make quite a lot of cheese, though. I do love me some cheese. Okay, I touched the pork, so I'm going to wash my hand before I do anything else. Not that I think the pork is dirty. Pork is actually very clean these days. An enormous amount of effort was put into ensuring that the pork supply was free of the things people used to be afraid of in pork. But still good practice to wash your hands after touching any raw meat. Ghetto Bino is in Quebec. Thermal mass is your nickname. Okay, we want the pork cooked through and well rendered out, and in nice little bits, not big clumps. So we're breaking it up with our wooden spoon. We're also using pork because it's pork season. Oh my god! Spaceballs, the username. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, Raiders. What is going on? Spaceballs, the username. Shout out. See if I can spell this correctly. Spaceballs. Nope, I can't. Bam. Gotcha. How's it going? Welcome in, Raiders. What's going on? We are cooking. What were you up to? Hello, hello. The pork has just gone in, and we are getting it nicely browned, rendered down, and thoroughly cooked through before we add too much else to it. We want to render out all of its fats. So it actually, this is the perfect time because I can step away more than normal. Hello, Raiders. Pop back up to the face. Hi. As you can see, our special today, Sichuan blackberry pork and shrimp. I'm using mapo tofu techniques, but to make blackberries and shrimp go together because that's kind of what I do. Is I find whatever random odds and ends I found on bargain today. That's what I cook. And today it was blackberries and shrimp. And pork wasn't actually on special, but it's pork season, so cheap pork. If you're not aware, in the autumn, in America, pork is cheap because ham production has ramped up, and all of the bits that were not hams, the price goes down. You find pork butts, you find, I found a slab of belly that I froze. I found a slab of pork belly for on discount, froze that. And that's why McDonald's does the McRib. Exactly. And the only bit that doesn't usually go down, again, I found that pork belly on sale, so I was happy with that one. The bit that usually doesn't go down is pork belly because they can always make bacon out of it. And bacon is perennially popular. We need the wooden one to break up the pork bits initially, but I think we're at the point where I can switch to just the normal spatula to cut through any little nuggets that are left. Aww. You were making coffee and pork dumplings. How did they come out? Let us know. And yes, I used to be way more about making sure I was explaining what all I was doing at all times. And I always forget about that these days. But what's in here at the moment is about 1 heaping teaspoon's worth of Sichuan peppercorns, 3 chile de arbol with the seeds, about, I want to say 2 inches of a ginger, and what did we end up with? It was 2 good cloves of garlic and then 4 like little weird ones. So probably 4 in total. Hippo, like hippopotamus, like the big animal from Africa. I don't know where to get that meat. Of all the meats you could ask about, I absolutely have no source for hippopotamus. Um, I don't believe those are farmed at all, anywhere. Oh, right. There's a generous handful of our chopped scallions in here. I should add more of those as we go, bit by bit. Using up the rest of your leftover dumpling fixins. They turned out well, and you have lunch for tomorrow. That is always a key. I'm glad they worked out. Go let the dog out. Don't let me hold you up. We have we have ways to go with this. We're still concocting the flavors. I prepped all the main ingredient pieces. We're still concocting flavors. We're going to add another big handful of scallions. Bit by bit, we're adding the scallions. I want to make sure the pork is really cooked through. Yes, chicken has gotten to be very expensive. Um, Eggs came down. Eggs stabilized. Chicken meat very expensive, and the wings most of all. I saw a package today in the bargain bin, 2 chicken breasts after discount, $11. That was insane. I don't know what's happening with the chickens. Okay, we're pushing all of our meat to the sides. Not yet. I'm gonna let it go a little bit further before I do that step. In fact, while it's going a little bit further, I will prep the broth, because I actually forgot that bit. And the official Mapo tofu recipe from the Walks of Life, we've used them a lot of times before. They have excellent recipes. Strongly recommend. Calls for chicken stock, but I actually have pork stock. Pork stock cubes. So we can use some of that. Miss Sepsi, hello. You got 4 chicken breasts on sale, and they came with bones. And they weren't supposed to come with bones, because I've seen the ones with bones, but pork stock cube and some just hot tap water. Don't need to go nuts with boiling this. They warned you about it. Okay, well. Found a website that says you can ship hippo meat to Canada, but not to the USA. That's probably a protected species in the USA. That's a thing. You are not allowed to ship the meat or any body part of any species that is considered federally protected. There are also considerations around still random parts of 2 little bones, not the full rack. Okay. I'm going to say, the chicken breast comes with bones sometimes. I'm giving us a little splishy splash. Not too much, but a little splishy splash of soy. Just to wake our flavor up a smidge. And Likewise, a little splishy splash of my black vinegar. Ooh, and Chinese cooking wine, but not the one that's the famous named one. A little bit of alcohol can take out a slight gaminess, a slight fishiness from some meats, and that technique is used quite commonly in. I know it's used quite commonly in Chinese cooking. I know it's also used in Swedish and like Scandinavian cooking. A little bit of alcohol can take out a slight off flavor, or a slight gaminess. And I see it used with pork a lot in Chinese cooking. Just a little bit of alcohol to kind of round out the flavor. They likely were an organic one because that is very high, but still, after discount, it's too much. It's too much. That's my bean paste, our spicy bean paste. Get it stirred through pretty well. I think I'm going to reserve a few of our blackberries. I think I'm going to reserve a few blackberries for garnish. Because I think they will look nice. But that's where the most of them are going, right in the thing. And we're smashing them with a smasher. Turn the heat up a little bit on that. Okay, smashed. Just a little bit of salt into the blackberries to help them express their juice. And we're committed to the nonsense. Sometimes you commit to the nonsense. My pork stock cube was not dissolving, so on the side over here, you can see my hand, mashed it with my fingers. We don't want this to cook completely down yet. But we want to give the blackberries enough time to really kind of break down and express their juice. So if they start to dry out, I'm going to add little bits of liquid to make sure that they don't. We could add a little bit more of our scallions. Bit by bit until they're all in there, and they will infuse this with a nice scalliony flavor. Start pushing the meat into it. It definitely made it turn purple. Definitely made it purple. But not as intensely as I had thought. What do you think? Should we put more blackberries in it? Really amp it? I should taste it before I commit to that. It's not too late to add more blackberries. It's never too late to add more blackberries. Yeah, I expected more juice out of the blackberries too. I'm going to add our pork stock cube. I think the pork stock cube might be a little bit old. This stuff is supposed to be quite juicy to the point of being almost sloppy. And then you thicken it with cornstarch right at the end, which I don't want to do until I know how the blackberries are going to behave. I don't know how much pectin is in a blackberry. Pectin can also act as a thickener. It's not nearly as purple as I thought it was going to be. Nana for banana. Sichuan is a style of cuisine originating from the Sichuan province of China. A blackberry is one of these. It's a cluster fruit related to the raspberry. I don't believe there is a specific variety of blackberry that is known as the Sichuan blackberry. Rather, I'm cooking blackberries in what I think might be a Sichuan style, and that's the underlying here. You know what that needs? Oh, that one's got a little bit of fur on it too. I'll just pull the furry bit out. Throw it away. Well, glad I actually looked at this one because it does have some furry bits, which means we need to use it up today as well. I was going to say, you know what that needs? More blackberries, and then I was going to just dunk the other blackberry thing in there, but it's got a little furry bit, so I got to pick out the furry bit. Well, that's what you get with bargain bin berries. Ooh. If anything, the third one here was the worst one. I see what happened. Some of the ones at the bottom got smashed, and it was long enough ago that they juiced out, and that's where the little furry bit set in. Okay, well, now I don't have to worry about what I'm going to do with blackberries, because they're gone. Where's my masher? And my masher. What do you mean fruit and meat doesn't sound good? I'm certain, I'm 100% certain that you have eaten fruit and meat at some time in your life. But this isn't really any, this isn't too far away from the strawberry steak I made. Apples go with, apples famously go with pork. The one I'm thinking of that is probably the absolute most common one is going to be tomatoes, which are fruit. And just because we lean into the savory flavors in them does not mean that that is the only thing they've got. You can go sweet if you want. I know it's a bit of a cop-out to say, oh, well, tomatoes are fruit. Tomatoes are fruit. We did something with kiwi. What did we do with kiwi? Because kiwi's very, very acidic. Bell pepper is also a fruit. All of the capsicum peppers are fruit. Okay, so now we actually want to cook the juice down a bit on this. I have done banana. I made a banana meatloaf. That was quite good. It's spicy. It definitely is spicy. Hoo-wee. But adding sweetness to savory dishes is a thing. It's definitely more common in, well, no, I can't even say it's more common in Asian cuisine. It's extremely common in French cuisine. They're not doing it via fruit, but they're definitely doing it. The classic French mirepoix of onion, carrot, celery is cooked slow and for a long time, specifically to bring the sweetness of the onion and the carrot out to give that sweetness into the finished dish. Because carrots also have a lot of sugar in them. So much so that you're not supposed to give carrots to, like, your pet rabbit or similar animals because it's too much sugar. It's bad for their teeth. This thing is completely made up. This is the result of me having found blackberries on discount and shrimp on discount. This is completely me. I made this up. The baseline, and the reason I called it Sichuan, is I'm using the flavor profile-ish of mapo tofu, which is also basically what this is at this point, except that I'm not going to add tofu, and we have added blackberries. This is definitely less acidic than I think I would like it to be. But it's plenty sweet. I don't want the sweetness to come up at all. It's actually not that sweet, but I don't want it to be really any sweeter than that. So I'm going to add a little bit more of our black vinegar. Push it into the acidity range a little more. We'll let that simmer together. We'll give it another taste. The shrimp is already cooked, so I want to throw it in as close to the very end as we can, because we don't really want to cook it anymore, or it'll go rubbery. You could probably feed zoo animals with like leafy greens. But yeah, a lot of our vegetables are bred. We have bred them to have very high sugar content compared to what they would have in natural plants. And by leafy greens, I would not go with iceberg lettuce, because that's also quite. That's iceberg lettuce is its own thing. It's like a nothing. It's like a nothing burger of a vegetable. Okay. This has simmered together long enough for me to give it a taster. Tasty taste. You found tilapia in the store suspiciously cheap, and you need to do it to figure out what to do with all of it. Let me get this taste real quick. And then I have a thought, but I have to remember what it's called. That needs something, but what? But what? If you've got time and space, Kubi. Assuming they're whole tilapia. If they're fillets, then I don't know that that works. But hi, isosceles. It does need love. You're right. I ran out of love. I'm giving it the cheater dust. There, it's been dosed with cheat dust. Now it's a cheater. People backseated me while I cook. I encourage it. You're looking at my tags. I thought that one was funny. I also thought no spoilers was funny. No. Backseating is permitted. Backseating is permitted. No spoilers is funny because I don't want my food to spoil. It's not no backseating, it's backseating. It's A-okay. Backseat me all you want. I encourage it. I think we need something. The cheater dust I added was MSG. So let's see how that affected my flavor. Boy, you know, a dash of MSG makes a world of difference. That stuff is great. That stuff is so good. Controversial. Uh, the blackberries are in. It's not as purple as I thought it was going to be. It definitely has a little bit of purple to it, but it's not nearly as purple as I thought it was going to be. I'm tempted to throw in some food coloring. Controversial ad. some chili Krispies. Some spicy chili Krispies in oil. I know. What am I thinking? But dang, if you've never had this stuff, hold on. Quick sales pitch. If you've never had this stuff is magic in a jar. Oops. We don't need to be over here anymore. So I think it needed some more savory. Spicy Chili Krispies has a lot of savory to it. It's also spice, but not intense spice. This actually didn't come out as spicy as I thought it might, probably because there's just so much of it. It's quite a large quantity I've made here. It could have stood a couple of more hot peppers, I think. Yeah, Lao Gan Ma. If Lao Gan Ma wants to sponsor me, and all I would need payment is jars of Lao Gan Ma. I use that stuff all the time. It's definitely sweeter than a red wine sauce. It doesn't have that tannic note that you get from red wine. We could push it in that direction, but I don't think I want to. I actually think we're gonna say it's probably ready to serve. I'm gonna give it one more taste before I commit. Because we're also gonna add the rest of those scallions and the shrimp to this. It's going on rice. It's being served on rice. Like a little piece of burnt ginger in there, which is real tasty. I'm going to add a little bit of water to it. Actually, I'm going to add a lot of water to it. I'm going to do the cornstarch thing, but with more water than is recommended. I'm going to take the temperature down on it. Because the stuff's supposed to be kind of soupy. Sticky rice is fairly popular. I don't think it's very common. People like it, but I don't think people know how to make it at home. So it's not often sold. And I have only made regular long grain rice today. I do like sticky rice. I don't think I've ever made proper sticky rice at home. Okay, quite a bit of cornstarch with quite a lot of water. I think the orange of the various peppery components that I've added is overriding the blue in the purple and taking us to just kind of a medium brownish pink. Sticky rice is similar to sushi rice. Like real sticky rice is like even stickier than sushi rice. And it's usually not vinegared. But it's similar, where it holds together in a shape. My former housemate used to make mango sticky rice, so you can definitely get it. Snowbalksy. Hi. Emerging from lurk, and then back to lurking. Um, so I added all that water, but this is still fairly thick on account of all the starch that I also added to make this kind of a thick, soupy thing. We're going to bring it back up to a full boil. To ensure I've got my consistency just right. You like that our stoves are similar. I've been wanting to replace this stove for a while. It still works, so my landlord won't replace it unless it actually breaks. But it's part of, in addition to my overall theme of what have I found on discount, that's what I'm making today. I kind of proved that you can make really good food with just basic tools and technique. People always tell me, oh, your stuff's so good. I couldn't make that. I made it in this little tiny dingy kitchen with this probably 50-year-old stove. And don't worry, we can make it not look poopy very quickly toward the end. This is essentially the sauce. At this point, we've just constructed the sauce. If we were making mapo tofu, you would then take your cubed tofu, throw it in here, toss it together to get them all really coated and heated through. And then you'd serve it. I think it looks pretty much exactly how I envisioned it looking, except that it's brown instead of purple. Should I add food color to it to force it to be purple, or is that gauche? If I can even find my food color. We hardly use it. I hardly never use it. No, Nana says no. And that's the only response I'm going to listen to. The first one. There we go. That's how it works. We're just letting it be brown. There's going to be a couple of blackberries in the garnish because I reserved a few. Now I'm especially glad that I reserved a few because you can't even see that they're in here. Okay, this is the consistency I want it to be. I don't think we're going to thicken it much more without really starting to scorch it. So we're going to take all of our shrimp, we're going to turn our heat down. We're going to take all of our shrimps, throw them in there. Let them swim in the pool. It's surf and turf. That's what I could have called it. I could have called it surf and turf. And then we're going to take a good amount of our scallions. Heat off. I'm actually going to slide it over so it stops getting heat. Stir those in as well. So they're going to be they're going to wilt, they're going to heat through, but they're not going to completely cook out. And that'll help our appearance quite a lot. And then we're on to serving. We've had a little bit of a short one today, which often happens with this kind of wok-style cooking. The cooking process is so quick. We didn't actually start cooking until an hour in. It only took me 40 minutes to make the dish. This is gloopy enough that we definitely want a high-sided container, a high-sided serving dish. But yeah, let's to it. Thank you guys for the follows. A couple of you have come through. I haven't been looking. Thank you guys for the follows. Of course, made too much rice as well, but there's no such thing as too much rice. There's just leftover rice. Turn off the warming function and grab us a spoon. Serve this beastie up. Yeah, serve this beastie up. We're gonna be pretty generous with it here. I want the meat sauce to kind of drape over the rice. Couple of blackberries. Most of the rest of our fresh scallions. Tiny drizzle of sesame oil. Oops. Lost my drizzle, it was too tiny. Garlic Crispies. And 2 kinds of sesame seeds. Bonito flake. I don't have bonito flake. That would be a... I don't have bonito flake. I can't add bonito flake. Solid idea. That's one of the things I have a really hard time finding where I am, is bonito flake. Yeah, so the way we do it, the way I always do it, I plate it up. Then I go in the other room, take a picture. I got a little table with a light on it so I can get a nice, well-lit shot. And then I come back and I eat it. And I tell you what it tastes like. So we're at the stage we're at now, where I walk into this room here, turn the light on, grab my phone. The photo will be posted in my Discord and some other Discords. Oh, this plate, the plate wants a decorative spoon and chopsticks to make it pop. I mean, functional spoon and chopsticks, but decorative for the purposes of plating. And then we come back. Come back with McRib. Keep that one in my back pocket for April. And that's the thing. There it is. Let's try to get our first bite with everything in it. That was a journey. Wow. And it ended pretty much right where it started. The fresh blackberries are kind of weird. They're this little burst of. Again, they're super, super ripe, so there's no tartness to them. They're just sweet, but they also weren't warmed through, so it gives you this like burst of cool juice for just a moment, and then you go back to where you started. The stuff underneath it is rich. It's savory. It's got just a little bit of sweetness to it. It's got a lot of savoriness to it. Interestingly, the spice is a slow burner. The fresh blackberry is weird. The blackberry in the sauce is good. It's imparting an important sweetness, a needed sweetness to this. I'm not gonna lie, the fresh blackberry is weird. That bit doesn't quite land. It's nice for the decorative plating. I can't go to restaurants. They won't let me. Um, there's a lot of little crunchy things all through the sauce because the blackberry seeds are still in there. But also I'm biting into bits of Sichuan pepper that are still, despite having been in there since literally the very beginning, still have a crunch to them, have a crisp crunch to them. Ooh, stuff burns too. It's not a front of the mouth burn. That first bite, I was thought, boy, this isn't spicy at all. It's a builder. It comes in at the end and then it waits. It stays there waiting for the next bite and then it builds on top of that. There are definitely blackberry seeds through this thing though. I noticed that, the crunchy little blackberry seeds. Probably if I was doing this as a serve for people, I'd strain the blackberries. I hate straining fruit. Blackberry seeds are quite hard little guys though, so it's not a deal breaker, but it's not the nicest thing. The shrimp were in there for so little time. They pretty much just taste like shrimp, but that's a nice counterpoint to the rest of it, which was very much stewed together all into one flavor. And my journey at the beginning was the savory flavor, the rich, meaty, savory flavor, which then led me into the weird burst of fresh fruit juice, which then led me into biting into the shrimp and being like, now my mouth is full of shrimp. And then back to the savory, rich sauce. And then the spice rolls in right at the end and is like, by the way, don't forget, you spiced the heck out of this thing. It's interesting how the spice waits so long and then comes in real strong at the end. Ooh, wee. It's tasty. I don't know that the blackberries do a ton. I think you could probably accomplish pretty much the same thing with a judicious application of hoisin. Burns the throat though. But like slow and long and slow. Spicy. Spicy, but in the back. My tongue barely feels it. Back of my throat, burning. Thank you for the moisten. Moist. 3 red chilies. Now, real mapo tofu, which I have made. I did make it here on the channel. Like I said, for a pound of pork, so the same size total dish, calls for 12. And I did that. That's a lot. Those are also Thai chilies. I used chili de arbol. I'm not actually sure which one's spicier. I'm inclined to say chili de arbol beats Thai chilies a little bit, but not by a massive amount. But the real mapo tofu also doesn't leave the chilies in. It cooks them in the oil at the beginning and then it removes the chilies, so it's just a flavor infusion in the oil. And then 2 fresh chilies go in late. It's a dozen chilies, but 10 of them come out. They just sit in the oil and infuse, and then they come out, and only 2 of them remain in the thing. Mapo tofu is a very spicy dish. When made in the traditional manner, it is a very spicy dish, which uses a very heavy application of Sichuan pepper to balance it out by making your mouth go numb. Whenever you describe how that cuisine is supposed to work, it just sounds insane. We'll make this thing so spicy that you can't eat it, but then we'll put another thing in there that makes your mouth go numb so that you can. Oh, great! That sounds wonderful. Yeah, very spicy. This is not super very spicy. This has definitely got a strong burn to it, but again, it's at the end. Oh yeah, Discord link. I didn't pin that at the top today. Let me go grab-a-roo that. There you go. If you wanted to join up my Discord, that's the best place to get photos. Also, I don't ping anyone, but I put my notifications of my going live there. I think I've only pinged everyone once for an unusual announcement. Yeah, it's honestly, it's a pretty quiet place, but yeah. So I think this works. I think the blackberries are a little bit extra. I get to put them on the sign. I get to put them in the title. I think that's the main thing they've accomplished, is I got to put them in the name of the dish. They definitely are a source of sweetness that I could have gotten somewhere else. Hoisin, a little bit of mirin. Heck, just some sugar. What does the mapo tofu use for its? Yeah, it just uses a white sugar directly. So I see the guy on Twitter compared his pad thai, complained that his pad thai restaurant, that his previous order wasn't very spicy. Chili times 10 make him wish he was never born. No, I didn't. Um, I have. I know that it's a thing. I don't know how pervasive it is, but I know it's a thing at some places, some Asian restaurants, the Thai and Vietnamese and Chinese places, that when they see a white person ordering spicy food, they don't go full bore with the spice. They hold back. Um, Again, I don't. It's a stereotype, but I know it happens occasionally because I've encountered it. Um, Boy, I hope you enjoyed the times 10 chili spicy. That sounds intense. I'm not a spice wimp, but I'm definitely not a blow your head off spice guy. Um, I think I'm gonna push the fresh blackberries off and eat them at the end. They're a little bit wonky. Mm. Mm. For as many blackberries as I put in there, blackberry is not the dominant flavor. I would be interested to do the same thing with a more strongly flavored fruit, like a strawberry or mango. I think mango would be. You'd have to blend the mango because it wouldn't break down like this. You couldn't just mash it. But I think mango would be really interesting with this. Also, yes, something without a million little tiny crunchy seeds. That would help a lot. As much as I love blackberries, raspberries, those kind of berries, they do have a million tiny seeds. Mangoes have got the one big seed. Peaches, plums. I love plums. Plums, because they would also have that acidity, that sharpness that I ended up having to add a little bit extra vinegar to balance out um, in this one. Good stuff. Um, whew, the spice is still coming up. I can honestly say I have never gotten an avocado seed stuck in my teeth. Not even one times. Um, Orange would be good, but then we'd be treading into familiar territory, maybe. You could do whole orange pieces because we did that once before with oh, what was it called? What was it called? It was that Croatian stew. It was that Croatian stew. It had whole sliced oranges in it. And when you stew the oranges, it takes the bitterness out of the rinds and you can just eat them. You could do that with this. You could just like chop whole oranges with the skins, throw them in there, and stew the heck out of them, and then eat them. And you'd get the juice from the orange, but you'd also get those like chewy bits. You just have to make sure to cook it long enough that they would soften up. Watermelon might be a big ask. Also, watermelon has got a million tiny seeds. Famously, people are spitting the seeds out. Um, Anyways, let's leave you looking at the food for a minute while I find a channel to rate out because we are just shy of the 2 hour mark, and that's pretty much where I shoot for. Um, I was watching Jen earlier. She's playing Coffee Talk, which is a pretty fun game. But let's see if any of our food friends are on. Chef J Tay is making pasta e fagioli. Pasta e fagioli sounds good. We could go see that. Mom is having a big pot of onions. And Room and Board is making a stir fry. What do you guys think? Where should we go? Raya, thank you for the messages. Little Dancing Dinosaurs if you are not subbed, and the Little Happy Jupiters if you are. Thyropster's playing a game today. Let's see, Jen's been on for 5 hours, so let's go with... I don't know. What do you guys think? Where are we going? I gotta decide quick before everybody bugs out. Too late. We're gonna go tell Chef what nonsense we made today. Yeah. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for showing up. Thanks to username. Spaceballs. Spaceball. I remembered the username part of your username. Spaceballs the username. Thanks so much to Spaceballs for the raid and all the raiders. And thanks for the follows. We had a bunch of follows before and after that raid, actually. New faces. A lot of new faces today. Good to see you. Glad you could make it. I'm only on once a week for the most part. Every once in a while we'll get a weird oddball, but for the most part. Spaceballs is fun to watch too. The one here. Spaceballs the movie. Yeah, I forgot to give you a follow when you jumped in. I will give that a do now. Come check you out next time. So yeah, I don't know what we're making. Next week is the week of Thanksgiving. That's going to be a weird week in general. It's going to be super busy for me. And also Thanksgiving is that week. So I don't know what I'm making. I don't know when. But I'll wave you out. Bye.